So it all starts with this strange act of grace. You have a forest guardian who, the night before, borrows a musket. But not for a fight, no, he uses it like a smoking pipe. And when he gives it back, the weapon is different. It's not just metal and wood anymore. There's this lingering, almost spiteful magic humming inside it now, a fire that seems to have a mind of its own. It's this small, weird little miracle that kind of sets the tone for everything, you know? It gets you asking what mercy really looks like.
And Morphus, our musician, he sees this impossible thing happen, and he does the only thing he knows how to do. He answers it with music. It's this moment of pure wonder, just the rhythm trying to make sense of the impossible. But it doesn't last. Because as we're about to find out, one magical night doesn't do a single thing to make the next morning's journey any less brutal.
In calling this land punishing is being generous. They're traveling across a landscape that feels like the exposed spine of some long-dead god. Just rock and bone. And just when you think the terrain is the worst enemy they're going to face, the real monsters show up. 3 Ankravs, each one the size of a horse. Just these nightmares of chitin and acid like Hunger was given legs and told to go wreak some havoc.
The fight kicks off immediately, and it is savage. The first one to go down is a hunter, Jeanette. And her scream, it's described as the single most human sound in the whole mess. And that really hits, you know? Because we love to wrap battle up in words like valor and fury. But pain doesn't have any of that vanity. It's the one thing that can't be dressed up. It's just the raw, undeniable truth of what's happening.
So the battle is just this whirlwind of chaos. You've got Gorak, who's basically an immovable object, just pure force holding the line. Tumi's musket is now spitting this wild, magical fire that he can barely even control. And then there's Morphus, who, in the absolute middle of all this terror, does the most beautifully absurd thing. He stops, takes a bite of a ration, then starts drumming. It's this tiny little act that says, I am still human. I am still here.
And here's the thing. Winning doesn't just erase what happened. Yeah, the monsters are dead, but their ruin is still there. The air reeks of acid, they have to set up a makeshift camp right there in the filth, and Jeanette, wrapped up in cloth and just saturated in pain, is trying so hard to hold on to some shred of dignity. Victory, it turns out, looks an awful lot like survival.
And this is where the whole rhythm of the story just changes. The noise of battle fades, and we're left with this quiet, intense focus. Lahade starts his healing, and it's pointed out that this isn't a performance. Real healing, it seems, can only start when everyone else has the decency to look away. His hands are steady, methodical. It's another kind of mercy, a quiet one that doesn't ask for an audience.
In that quiet, a sound on the wind sends Morphus back into a memory, and it unlocks this incredibly powerful idea. He remembers this mare from when he was a kid. All the adults called her stubborn, but even as a boy, he knew that wasn't the right word. Stubborn was just what they called her pain, because her pain wasn't convenient for them.
So what did young Morphus do? He didn't try to force her. He started with a gift, just a carrot. And then he did something amazing. He just listened. He listened to the rhythm of the horse chewing, and he started tapping 2 stones together, matching her rhythm. It wasn't about giving a command. It was about starting a conversation. It was the first music he ever made that was actually about listening.
And that one simple act, being heard, that changed everything. The mare didn't calm down because of some miracle. She made a choice. She decided that maybe, just maybe, this world was survivable after all. That's the power of actually seeing someone's pain. And just as Morphus is lost in this thought, he's pulled back to the present by a new sound on the wind: water.
And just like that, the world shifts again. The brutal rock and stone give way to this lush, green marshland, a place where rot and beauty are so intertwined you can't tell them apart. And there, by the shore of a lake, they see them, the Naiads, the lake folk. And they are so serene, so beautiful, it's almost alien. And with a section title like The Kindness of Violence, you just know things are about to get very complicated.
At the center of it all are the 2 Aurochs they've been tracking this whole time. One is agitated, pacing back and forth. The other is lying down in this deep, unnaturally heavy sleep, while the Naiads perform some kind of ritual over it. And Lahade and Tumi, the one sensitive to magic, they feel it immediately. Whatever this is, it's not healing. It's some kind of fundamental change, something far more dangerous.
A warrior naiad named Melpomene steps forward to confront them, and she claims they're granting the Aurochs mercy. By making them a permanent part of the glade, they'll be safe from hunters forever. And there it is. The conflict is laid bare. You have two completely different definitions of mercy about to go head-to-head. One is about ownership, the other is about absorption. And you have to wonder if either one is actually about freedom.
Garok, in his usual brutally honest way, just steps up. He doesn't lie. He says, yeah, we were hunting them, but things have changed. We fought off the monsters that were actually chasing these creatures. He says they might not need to be slaughtered, but they sure as hell don't need a salvation that's being forced on them. And his raw honesty just slices right through the Naiad's calm justifications.
Morphous tries to step in with his music, but he can't find the harmony. The Naiad's song is described with this chillingly perfect phrase, a lullaby that assumed consent. It's the kind of calm you feel in a cage, not in a field. So instead of joining in, Morphous creates a counter rhythm, a kind of friction against their music. And through that dissonance, he manages to connect with the standing, terrified Aurochs.
And the connection works. The Aurochs' plea is clear. Even without words, stop them. Garok sees it, and he seizes the moment. He turns to Melpomene with this devastating question. If the creature's own kind knows this is wrong, hasn't your kindness already become violence? And for the first time, you see the warrior Naiad actually hesitate.
But the argument, it just stops. It's cut short by a new voice, a voice that has such absolute authority that every single Naiad, without even a thought, drops to their knees. The ground starts to tremble. The water of the lake itself seems to be gathering, rising up, taking a new form. This debate is over. A much, much higher power has just entered the chat.
And what comes out of the water is Lady Vivienne, and she is immense. Like a piece of geography decided to stand up. A being made of moonlight and deep water. And the terrifying part isn't her power, it's her calm. Her beauty isn't comforting, it feels like a form of jurisdiction. Her lack of any obvious hostility is somehow the most intimidating thing about her.
She doesn't put them on trial for what they did, but for why they do things. One by one, they have to state their purpose. Garok speaks of his dream to build a better home for his people, for the orcs. Tumi talks about wanting to build a city, and he shows her the strange, crude magic still glowing in his musket as proof of his sincerity.
Leahyde tells her about his foster father's search for eternal life, and Vivienne gives him this cryptic warning in response. And finally, Morpheus offers this just beautiful explanation for what he does. Music, he says, is the right of all living things to remain capable of delight. And she just listens to all of it, judging the hope behind their actions. So her judgment comes. She talks about a much bigger threat, a corruption spreading from the Lord of the Dead that's choking the life out of the land. But she also gives a very personal warning to Leahyde about the true cost of immortality, hinting that his father's fate is tied to Jong Hork, the very same forest guardian who enchanted Tumi's musket at the very beginning of all this. And because she respects their sincerity, she gives them gifts. But these aren't just random trinkets. Each one is a perfect answer to the purpose they declared. For Garok the smith, she gives pure river-bright metal. For Tumi the city builder, a vial of pure water, a foundation. For Leahyde the healer, a staff made of living wood. And for Morphous the musician, new drums, and a lock of her own hair.
Only after all that does Vivienne release the Aurochs from the Naiad's spell. The sleeping one wakes up, the other one calms down, but they don't bolt, they don't run, they just stand there, and the reason why is so profound. They choose to stay, not because they're no longer afraid, but because they finally reached a point where every other option is just more exhausting than finally choosing to trust.
And that's where we're left. Not with some big triumphant celebration, but with this quiet, heavy moment of acceptance. It makes you ask, what really is trust? Is it some noble act of faith? Or is it just the last stop on the road, the only thing you have left when every other path has become too painful to even think about walking down? A pretty good question to sit with.